The galaxy had been burning for months, every star sector echoing with the sounds of war. Fleets of the alien alliance stretched across the void, confident, unstoppable, sure that no one could challenge them. They believed the humans were gone, erased from history after the fall of Sol, a minor race that fought too fiercely for its own good, and paid the price. But on this quiet day, in a forgotten corner of the Orion Belt, something changed. A flicker appeared near the edge of the war zone, faint at first like a ghost signal. The alien sensors caught it and dismissed it. Then the signal grew, brighter, heavier, sharper than anything they had seen before. The commanders aboard the Zrath flagship watched in confusion as the space around them began to twist, the very stars bending as if afraid to look. "What is that?" one alien whispered, his claws tapping against the console. "Not one of ours," the commander replied, his voice dry, his eyes narrow. The distortion deepened. Energy spikes hit impossible levels. Their scanners screamed warnings in languages even the machines did not understand. And then it happened. A flash brighter than a supernova tore through the darkness, blinding every ship in orbit. The void itself seemed to hold its breath. When the light faded, they saw it, a fleet of dark, silent warships in cold black, and massive, hanging in perfect formation, no insignia, no transmission, only the faint blue glow of ion drives humming like thunder trapped inside metal. For a moment no one spoke, no one moved. The Zrath commander blinked, his heart's racing. "Identify them," he demanded. The reply came shaky. "No record found. Their transponders are dead, their design unknown." But deep in the archives, an old officer recognized the shape of one ship, the curve of its hull, the brutal simplicity of its guns. His voice trembled as he said the words no one expected to hear again. "Human." The bridge fell silent. Every alien turned toward the viewport, staring at the ancient ghost of a race they had buried in their history books. The humans had returned. On the command deck of the lead vessel, the TSS Vanguard, Admiral Elena Reyes stood with her hands behind her back, her uniform dark and unmarked, her eyes fixed on the distant enemy. Around her, the crew moved like shadows, quiet, precise, trained for this moment. "Status report," she said, her tone calm, cold. "All ships in formation. Rail batteries charged, pulse cannons ready," her second-in-command replied. "Engines stable, stealth matrix active," another voice added. Reyes nodded once. "Good, let's remind them out there." In the alien fleet, panic grew. The Alliance ships adjusted formation, raising shields, sending encrypted messages to nearby sectors, but their messages never left the system. Every transmission cut by a silent human jamming wave. The aliens were blind, deaf, and alone. The humans moved, not with noise or chaos, but with terrifying calm. The Vanguard's guns aligned. Power readings spiked and a hum began, a low, deep tone that echoed through the metal hulls. The alien flagship fired first, desperate, its plasma volley streaking through the void, but it never reached. Human point defense lasers erased it mid-flight, as if the universe itself refused to let it touch them. "Return fire," Reyes said quietly, and the void answered. In 60 seconds, the sky became a storm. Tungsten rods fell like burning rain. Railguns thundered. Energy bursts lit entire battlefields. Alien cruisers shattered like glass. One by one, erased from the stars, the human fleet did not shout, did not celebrate, did not hesitate. They were ghosts of vengeance, cold and unstoppable. Each shot was history rewritten, each explosion was memory avenged. Inside the Zrath command ship, chaos spread. "They're targeting our engines, they know our weak points," an officer screamed. "Impossible, our codes are secure," another cried. But the truth was cruel. The humans had been watching for years, hidden, patient, learning everything. They knew the alien tactics better than the aliens themselves. Within 40 seconds, the first fleet collapsed. Within 50, half the command ships were gone. At 60 seconds, silence returned. Reyes watched the debris scatter across the dark, the wreckage floating like ash in water. "Report," she said. "Enemy fleet destroyed," came the quiet reply. Reyes nodded once, her voice steady. "Transmit the message." A single human signal pulsed through the void, carried across the old galactic networks. "This war is over," it said, just 4 words, and across the stars, every listening ear fell silent. The humans had returned, not as victims, but as the end of wars. In the command deck, Reyes closed her eyes for a moment, her mind drifting back to Earth, to Sol, to the blue planet that burned long ago. They thought humanity was finished, she thought. They were wrong. Outside the viewport, the stars seemed to bow, the galaxy once again remembering the name of the species it tried to erase. The Terran fleet drifted in perfect order, weapons cooling, hulls glowing softly in the aftermath of fury. And in that silence, the universe understood a terrible truth. When humanity enters the war zone, the war is already done. The stars were still trembling from the fury of the first strike. Wreckage floated across the endless dark, glowing faintly as the last plasma fires died out. The human fleet hung in silence, a wall of metal and vengeance drifting through the ashes of its enemies. No cheers came. No celebration, only quiet breathing and the soft hum of reactors cooling down. Admiral Elena Reyes stood at the center of the TSS Vanguard's bridge, her reflection faint in the glass as she watched the broken shapes of alien ships spin away into nothing. She did not smile. She did not move. Her posture was sharp as a blade, her eyes steady. Her crew waited, every officer standing straight, the air heavy with discipline. They had trained for this moment for years, in silence, in exile, in the dark corners of forgotten space. "Confirm enemy destruction," Reyes said, her voice low but absolute. "Confirmed, Admiral." "All 38 ships neutralized," her second-in-command replied. "Good," she whispered, her tone unreadable. The humans were once again a name in the stars, but this time a name to fear. She turned toward the tactical display, watching the holomap pulse with faint blue lights. "Any survivors?" "Few escape pods drifting, no active signals," came the reply. "Retrieve them," Reyes ordered. "We need witnesses." Her command was not cruelty. It was strategy. The galaxy had forgotten humanity's wrath, but it had to remember its precision, its control, its command. The recovery drones moved silently, snatching alien escape pods from the void and bringing them aboard. The prisoners inside were terrified, many still trembling, unable to speak. To them, the humans looked like machines, their armor black, their movements smooth, their faces calm. They expected rage, but found only order in the holding bay. One alien officer, in scales dull, uniform torn, stared through the transparent field at the humans surrounding him. "Why?" he asked, his voice shaking. No one answered. He slammed his claws against the barrier. "You were gone, extinct. We burned your homeworld. We saw your cities fall." A young human officer turned, his gaze cold and calm. "And yet, here we are," he said. The alien fell silent, his eyes wide with a fear older than his species. Back on the bridge, Reyes opened a sealed file. A data key with the emblem of the old Terran Navy. A relic from the fallen Earth. The file's name read Operation Iron Veil. She inserted it into the command console. The ship AI Athena flickered to life. "Admiral Reyes," the AI said, its voice soft and calm. "Protocol confirms readiness." "Execute Phase 2, Reyes replied. "Confirmed, activating Iron Veil," the AI responded. Across the fleet, silent systems came alive. Hidden weapons extended, encrypted networks synced, coordinates locked on distant sectors. The next phase of the plan was already in motion. The galaxy believed this battle was an isolated event, but the humans had prepared for far more. Reyes stepped closer to the viewport, her mind traveling back to the days after Earth's fall. She remembered the underground bunkers, the hidden colonies and asteroid belts, the scattered survivors whispering the same promise. "We will return." She had been a child then, watching the sky burn red over Luna's horizon, her mother's hand holding hers. The image had never left her, and now, decades later, that memory stood beside her like a ghost. She spoke softly, almost to herself. For Sol, her crew heard it. They didn't reply, but every heartbeat on the bridge matched her words. For Sol, for Earth, for the billions lost to arrogance, for the species that refused extinction. Then a voice came from communications. "Admiral." Long-range sensors picking up transmission from the Galactic Council. "They're demanding identification." Reyes turned, her expression still cold. "Send them a reply," she said. The officer hesitated. "What message should we send?" Reyes looked at the shattered battlefield outside and whispered, "Tell them we've come home." The message was short, carried through every channel, bouncing across every network, and when it reached the Council, silence spread across the galaxy. The Council chambers, filled with diplomats, nobles, and admirals, erupted in panic. "Impossible," one shouted. "Human ships can't exist. We destroyed their fleets a century ago." Another shouted back. "Then who erased the Zrath Armada in 60 seconds? No one had an answer, only fear. Meanwhile, the Terran fleet was already on the move, engines glowing, hulls gleaming like silent gods drifting through smoke. They were heading for the next sector, where another alien force gathered, unaware that death was already on its way. "Admiral," the AI spoke again. "Enemy reinforcements inbound in 10 minutes, Reyes nodded. "Form up, pattern hammerfall." "Same rules. Fast, clean, absolute." "Yes." "Admiral," the helmsman replied. The fleet began to turn. Every ship rotating in perfect alignment, thousands of tons of steel moving as one from a distance. The formation looked like a blade cutting through the dark. In that moment, the Terran fleet became more than ships. More than soldiers, it became a single entity. Precise. Relentless, alive with purpose. The human fleet vanished again, jumping into the next system, leaving behind nothing but drifting metal and the quiet memory of what once was. Behind them, the wreckage of the Zrath Armada spun in silence, glowing faintly in the light of a dying star, and somewhere, deep within the Galactic Council, fear took root. Because the humans were no longer the forgotten dead. They were the command of steel, the storm that never announced itself twice. In the heart of the galaxy, thousands of light years away from the smoking ruins of the Zrath Armada, a faint signal broke through the noise. It was raw, unencrypted, ancient in its format, yet every communication satellite caught it instantly. The message spread across the void like a spark across dry leaves. The Galactic Council's central hub, a city of glass towers floating in the nebula of Trion, came alive with alarms, transmissions flashing on every screen. The counselors, admirals, and diplomats rushed into the chamber, their voices overlapping in panic. "What is this signal?" one demanded. "It's broadcasting from Sector Theta 9, sir," replied a trembling technician. "It matches no known encryption, but it's broadcasting in human code." The word froze the entire room. "Impossible," whispered Counselor Vereen, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Human code was erased from our archives a century ago." The technician shook his head. "Sir, it's genuine. It's using their old Terran frequency band. Every system in range is receiving it." Before anyone could respond, the main screen flickered to life. Static filled the chamber, then the image cleared. It wasn't a message from any diplomat or commander. It was footage, raw and brutal. The camera angle showed the Zrath Armada, proud and massive, lined in perfect formation. Moments before the first human strike, then, in less than a minute, the entire fleet turned to burning debris, ships splitting apart, reactors exploding like dying suns, and at the center of it all, silent and still, the human warships moved like shadows of death. No music, no voice, only the cold hum of engines and the sound of reality breaking. Then a single sentence appeared across the screen, glowing in bright white letters. "This war is over." The chamber fell into perfect silence. No one breathed. For a long moment, only the faint hum of the projectors could be heard. Then chaos erupted. "Who authorized this broadcast? Trace the source now! Get me the Defense Council!" "The humans are extinct. This must be fabricated." But deep inside the system cores, analysts confirmed what everyone feared. The transmission wasn't fake. It came directly from the coordinates of the destroyed Zrath fleet, confirmed by multiple observatories. Every word, every image, every second, real. Undeniable. Within hours, every major network across the galaxy played the footage. On trading worlds, workers stopped their machines, staring at the glowing screens in military academies. Cadets whispered the word Terran like a prayer they had forgotten. And in hidden corners of the stars, old veterans who once fought the humans trembled, remembering the look in Terran eyes, that quiet fury that never burned out. Across the empire of Karthos, the Supreme Commander watched the footage in silence. His aide asked carefully, "Should we respond, sir?" The commander turned, his scaled face pale. "Respond? To what, Lieutenant?" "The humans don't send messages. They send conclusions." He stood, his tail flicking nervously. "Prepare the fleets, but do not provoke them." "Not yet." Meanwhile, in the shadow of an abandoned mining colony, rebels against the Council watched the broadcast with wide eyes. One of them, a young alien with a scarred face, smiled. "The ghosts have returned," he said. "The ones who fought the gods and didn't bow," another whispered. "Maybe the galaxy needs them again." Back aboard the TSS Vanguard, Admiral Reyes stood in silence watching the reports come in. Athena, the ship's AI, spoke softly. "The broadcast has reached all major civilizations, Admiral. Council panic levels rising. Alliance fleets mobilizing. Reyes didn't look away from the stars. Let them mobilize. We're not here to conquer. We're here to remind. Athena paused. And when they don't listen? Reyes smiled faintly. Then we remind them harder. Her officers exchanged uneasy glances, but none questioned her. Every soldier on the vanguard carried the same scar. The loss of Earth, the humiliation of extinction, the promise of return. Now that promise echoed across the stars like thunder after lightning. On one of the Council's hidden worlds, the alien historian Zara opened the old archives, brushing off centuries of dust from forbidden files labeled Terran war logs. Her eyes widened as she read the first line. Never underestimate a human with nothing left to lose, she whispered to herself. We never learned elsewhere in the great broadcast stations. Human words became the most searched term in every galactic database. Curiosity mixed with fear, fascination mixed with guilt. Every species wanted to know the same thing. Where had the humans been hiding? How had they survived, and what would they do next? The answer was coming as the fleet prepared its next jump. Admiral Reyes looked at the holographic map of the galaxy. Glowing red with enemy signatures, her eyes focused on one world, Drath Prime, the capital of the species that ordered Earth's destruction. Athena spoke again. Next jump coordinates locked. Reyes nodded slowly. Initiate jump in 10, she said, her tone steady as steel. Her crew began counting down 10, 9, 8. Outside, the engines of the Terran fleet lit the darkness. Blue fire roaring silently in the vacuum. The galaxy watched, terrified. As the ships disappeared into the void once again, the broadcast had ended. But its echo remained across 1,000 worlds. In 1,000 tongues, one message repeated over and over. The humans are back. And they finished wars before anyone even knew they had begun. Long before the fleet returned. Before the galaxy trembled, there was silence. The kind of silence that followed extinction. The kind that only ashes could remember. Earth was gone, its oceans turned to steam. Its skies burned to glass. Its cities crumbled under alien bombardment. The Terran homeworld became nothing more than a ghost in the void. But humanity did not die, it hid, it adapted, it waited. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, survivors built bunkers out of red dust and steel. They called them hollows, places where the last of humanity could breathe, eat and dream. In those hollow cities, children grew up never seeing the sun, only holograms of the blue sky their ancestors once knew. Teachers spoke of forests, oceans, and music, things that no longer existed, and every night they repeated the same words. We will return. Admiral Elena Reyes was one of those children. She had been 6 years old when Sol fell. Her father, a Terran Navy officer, died in orbit trying to hold the line. Her mother carried her to safety under the red soil, whispering, "Remember the light, my star. Never forget the light," for years. That phrase echoed in her dreams even now, decades later. Standing on the bridge of the TSS Vanguard, she could still hear it, soft and distant. In the archives of the Terran Exodus, the truth was hidden after the fall of Earth. A handful of warships escaped, guided by a secret AI network designed before the war. The project was called Echelon. It was humanity's last contingency. Those ships carried the best engineers, scientists, and soldiers, not to fight, but to rebuild. They hid in the Kuiper Belt, then jumped beyond known space into dark sectors where no alien dared to go. There in silence they built again, piece by piece. They built ships that could outlast suns, weapons that could pierce planets, and armor that could shrug off the heat of stars. Generations passed in exile. The children of survivors became the new Terran Navy. Their myths were not about gods or kings, but about endurance. They trained in dark simulators, fought in virtual battles, studied the enemy that destroyed their home, every tactic, every weakness, every pattern. By the time Admiral Reyes took command, the Terrans were no longer survivors. They were evolution's answer to extinction. Now standing in the dim blue glow of the bridge, Reyes stared at a small relic on her console, a fragment of glass encased in crystal, the last piece of a Terran window pane, melted by the fire that consumed Earth. She touched it gently, her voice low. We didn't die, Mother. We became something stronger. Around her, the crew worked silently. Many carried similar relics, a rock from Earth, a strand of soil, a digital archive of an old song. These were their reminders, their reason. When aliens spoke of humanity, they used to mock, emotional, fragile, too attached to their past. But that emotion had forged steel stronger than anything in the galaxy. Athena, the ship's AI, spoke softly. Admiral, you are replaying the Sol memory file again. Reyes smiled faintly. It keeps me focused. Would you like me to display the final transmission? The AI asked. Reyes nodded. The bridge lights dimmed and a hologram appeared. The final moments of Earth's fall. The camera showing the Pacific burning, the orbital defenses crumbling, and the last fleet commander sending a message before his ship exploded. To whoever finds this, the man said, humanity may fall. But remember this, we are not defined by the worlds we lose, but by the wars we refuse to end. The image faded. Reyes stood silently, her eyes wet, her fist tight across the fleet. Her officers watched similar recordings, each carrying a personal archive of the fall, each carrying rage turned into purpose. They didn't speak of revenge. Because revenge was too small a word, this was remembrance. Every Terran warship carried a file called Sol's Echo, and before every battle it played in silence, not for morale, but as a reminder that humanity was built from loss, far away in alien academies. Instructors told cadets that humans were emotional fools, unpredictable and dangerous, but in truth, it was that same emotion that gave them what others lacked, the will to endure, the courage to rise again. As the fleet moved toward Drath Prime, Reyes looked at the endless starfield ahead. Athena spoke again. Admiral, if we win this next engagement, humanity will reclaim Sol's coordinates for the first time in a century. Reyes nodded slowly. Then we start where it ended, she whispered. Her crew looked up, their faces calm, their eyes shining like the stars they once called home. The Terran fleet adjusted formation, 1,000 ships aligning into a perfect spearhead. Engines ignited, burning brighter than ever before. The memory of Sol pulsed through every ship's core. Not as sorrow, but as strength. The humans had lost their world, but not their fire. And now the galaxy would see what happens when that fire finally burns again. Drath Prime glowed like a jewel in the dark, surrounded by defense rings, orbital cannons, and fleets layered across its orbit. The homeworld of the Drath Empire, once proud and cruel, now waited in terror, for reports of the Zrath massacre had already reached them. Stories of a human fleet that erased armadas in 60 seconds, a force that spoke only 4 words. This war is over. On the bridge of the TSS Vanguard, Admiral Reyes watched the holographic projection of the planet slowly turn. Continents marked by red lights where the war factories stood. Her voice was steady. Drath Prime, origin of the bombardment of Sol. Her officers stood silent. None dared speak, for this was not just another enemy world. This was the birthplace of their pain. Athena's calm voice broke the silence. Enemy fleets locked, planetary shields at maximum. Communications incoming. Reyes raised an eyebrow. From whom? The Drath High Command, Admiral, they request parley. For the first time in decades, humanity's old enemy wanted to talk. The main screen flickered and an alien face appeared. Aged, scarred, with scales faded to gray. The golden insignia of a Grand Admiral burned onto his chest. His voice was deep and tired. I am Grand Admiral Vorkin of the Drath, he said slowly, his eyes avoiding hers. I was there when Earth burned. Reyes didn't move. Her expression cold as steel. Vorkin continued. We believed it necessary then to secure our rule, but we were wrong. Humanity's destruction was our curse, not our victory. He looked down, his claws trembling. I surrender, Admiral Reyes. I surrender my fleet, my world, everything. Just end this. The bridge fell into silence. The crew exchanged glances. Uncertain, Athena spoke softly. Admiral. The sincerity level of his voice patterns indicates fear, not deception. Reyes nodded slightly, her gaze never leaving the alien's face. You were there when Earth burned, she repeated. Then you understand what you're asking. Vorkin nodded slowly. Yes, I do, and I am asking for mercy. Reyes turned to her officers. Put him on hold. The image froze. She looked at the crew, her voice calm. What do you think? Captain Hale clenched his fists. He deserves to burn, Admiral. Just like our world did, Commander Lin spoke softly. But if we destroy them now, we become them. Silence followed, heavy and long. Reyes looked at the stars through the viewport. The memory of her mother's voice echoing in her mind. Never forget the light. She exhaled slowly. Athena, access file Sol Protocol 12. Confirmed, said the AI. On the holographic screen appeared a file marked Human Ethics Directive. Last updated before the fall of Earth, its message simple. Mercy is strength. Vengeance is weakness disguised as justice. The crew waited, their hearts heavy. Reyes closed her eyes for a moment, then spoke. Open the channel. The image of Vorkin returned. His eyes filled with shame. Reyes stood tall, her tone quiet but powerful. Admiral Vorkin, she said, you ask for mercy, but you gave none when our children screamed under your fire. You ask for forgiveness, but you left none for us to offer. Vorkin bowed his head. Silent, Reyes continued. I will not destroy your world, because humanity doesn't repeat mistakes, but you will live knowing that the species you tried to erase chose to spare you. The alien looked up in disbelief. You won't annihilate us? No, Reyes said, but your fleets will disarm. Your weapons will burn and your empire will bow before peace. If you ever threaten another world again the next time, we will not speak. Vorkin's eyes watered, a strange sight for a creature of war. You shame me, he whispered. Reyes replied softly. Then learn from it. The transmission ended. On the bridge, silence lingered. Athena reported. Enemy fleet standing down. Surrender verified across all channels. Reyes gave a slow nod. Signal the fleet. Stand down from attack posture. Yes, Admiral, the comm officer replied. Relief mixing with awe. The Terran fleet lowered its weapons, drifting silently over the world that once destroyed their home. From the surface, billions of eyes watched in fear, expecting annihilation, but instead, they saw only the silent shadow of ships passing overhead. A voice broadcasted from orbit, translated into every Drath language. This is not vengeance. This is return. All across Drath Prime, the message repeated until every soldier dropped his weapon. In the great halls of the Drath government, leaders knelt not to conquerors, but to survivors, and somewhere in a quiet chamber, Vorkin watched the human fleet fade into the sky, his old heart breaking under the weight of regret. Back aboard the Vanguard, Commander Lin whispered, you spared them. Admiral, Reyes nodded. Mercy doesn't make us weak. It reminds the galaxy why we were worth fearing. Outside, the stars shimmered faintly, the war ending not with fire but with silence. Athena's voice broke the quiet. Admiral, the Council broadcast has confirmed the surrender. You've ended the war. Reyes looked at the dark horizon. No, Athena, she said, we've ended their war. Ours has just begun. The fleet turned away from Drath Prime, engines lighting the void once again behind them. The world that once doomed humanity now watched in awe, and across the galaxy, every empire understood one truth. The humans had changed. They could destroy, but they chose not to, and that made them unstoppable. The war was over. Yet the galaxy did not celebrate. It watched in silence. It watched the human fleet drift away from Drath Prime, vanishing into the endless dark, leaving behind a world that expected fire but received mercy. For the first time in centuries, peace came not through fear of destruction, but through the weight of conscience. In the Galactic Council Hall, silence filled the air. The great chamber, 1,000 meters wide, lined with floating banners of every species, stood still. Screens replayed the same footage again and again. Human ships arriving, the Drath surrendering, and then nothing but quiet. Counselor Vereen, who once ordered the erasure of all human history, sat trembling, his voice barely a whisper. They spared them. Another counselor, a creature of smoke and light, flickered nervously. No one spares the Drath. Not after Sol. Vereen turned, his four eyes wide. That's exactly why we should be afraid. Across the galaxy, every news channel, every communication hub, every pirate signal replayed the same headline. The humans returned. And walked away. Merchants paused mid-trade to listen. Soldiers sat in mess halls, silent. Watching those dark ships glide across the stars, the word Terran spread like wildfire. No longer a curse, no longer a myth, but a promise. In the far reaches of the Andral sector, a group of alien mercenaries sat around a dusty table. Their leader, a scarred veteran, slammed his drink down. They didn't conquer. They didn't gloat, he said, his voice shaking. Do you know what that means? Another leaned forward. It means they're not fighting for empire. The veteran nodded. Exactly. It means they're fighting for something purer, something no one can break. Meanwhile, on the TSS Vanguard, calm filled the corridors. Soldiers moved quietly. Engineers checked systems, but no one smiled. Victory felt heavy, because vengeance left no joy, only emptiness. Admiral Reyes stood alone in her quarters, the soft hum of the ship filling the silence. On her desk lay a small hologram, An old recording of Earth's oceans, waves crashing under sunlight. Her eyes softened as she watched. Athena's voice echoed gently. You saved billions today. Admiral, Reyes sighed. No, Athena. I reminded them what being human means. The AI paused. You think they'll understand? Reyes smiled faintly. Understanding isn't our goal. Remembering is elsewhere on Drath Prime. The once proud cities now buzzed with confusion. Banners of surrender fluttered in alien winds, and citizens whispered the same question. Why had the humans spared them? In the great temple of war, Grand Admiral Vorkin stood before a mirror, his reflection aged and broken. He touched the scar on his chest where his insignia once shone. He whispered, We destroyed their home and they still gave us mercy. Then, lowering his head, he spoke softly to the empty room. We were never the superior ones. In the outer colonies, small races long enslaved by empires began to rise. Inspired by the Terrans on the world of Lumeris, miners refused to bow to their lords, chanting, We are human in spirit. On the icy moons of Vetra, rebels painted Terran symbols on their ships, using them as signs of hope across the stars. Humanity's return sparked something far greater than fear. It rekindled rebellion, courage and unity, but not everyone welcomed it. In the shadow of the Ekrath Empire, warlords gathered, plotting, If the humans spread, our rule dies, one growled. Another slammed his claws on the table. Then we kill their image before it grows. Before they become legends again, they sent assassins, spies, fleets, Mao. But deep down, they knew it was already too late. A story had been born, and stories could not be killed. Back on the Vanguard, Reyes watched the holographic map shift, hundreds of new signals lighting up, some friendly, some hostile. Her second-in-command entered. Admiral, new transmissions from allied colonies. They're requesting Terran protection. Reyes nodded slowly. We'll protect them, but not with force and advisors, engineers, healers. We'll rebuild what the galaxy broke. The officer hesitated. And the council? Reyes smiled faintly. Let them talk, we'll act. In that moment, the Terran fleet changed its mission, from warriors to guardians, from vengeance to renewal. But even then the galaxy could not rest easy, because it understood that if humanity could win wars so easily, they could end them even faster. Athena spoke again. Admiral, shall I log the operation as concluded? Reyes looked at the stars, her voice soft. No, Athena. Log it as a beginning. The ship's engines glowed softly, like blue fire under glass as the fleet prepared for its next journey. Reyes whispered to herself, We came to end a war, but maybe we were meant to start peace. And in the silence of space, a whisper spread across the stars, a whisper carried by frightened diplomats, inspired rebels and curious children alike. The humans are not conquerors. They are the reckoning. The stars were quiet again, yet that quiet no longer belonged to the conquerors. It belonged to the survivors. The Terran fleet drifted between constellations, dark and steady, its banners unmarked. Its name whispered like a prayer across every system. The galaxy had seen what 1 minute of human fury could do, but it had also seen what human mercy could mean. Admiral Reyes stood on the observation deck of the TSS Vanguard, the glass above her alive with the reflection of nebulae. She had led fleets, ended wars, faced ghosts, and now she was facing something new. Peace. Her crew worked quietly behind her, repairing, scanning, mapping the stars they once called home. The tension of battle replaced by something heavier. Purpose, Athena spoke softly. Admiral. Incoming transmission from the Galactic Council. Reyes smiled faintly. Of course, now they want to talk. The screen shimmered, revealing a room filled with alien dignitaries, faces she had seen only as enemies. Counselor Vereen spoke first, his voice cautious. Admiral Reyes of Terra, we acknowledge your return. The Council extends formal recognition to the Terran people. Reyes raised an eyebrow. Recognition? After a century of denial? Vereen hesitated. We offer partnership, peace, and apology. Reyes looked directly into the lens, her voice calm. Peace is not a gift you can offer, Counselor. It's a lesson we taught you. The aliens flinched, but none dared reply. She continued. Our return is not to rule you or to rewrite your maps. We came back because you forgot what strength means. You thought it was the power to conquer. But strength is the power to end a war and walk away. Then she ended the transmission, her image fading before the Council could respond. Across the fleet, a broadcast signal began to form, carried on ancient Terran channels. It spread faster than light, faster than fear. Every world heard it, from the mining colonies to the council spires. "This is Admiral Elena Reyes of the Terran fleet," the voice said, steady as iron. "Humanity has returned, not as victims, not as vengeful ghosts, but as guardians of balance. To every species who remembers the light of Sol, know this. We forgive, but we do not forget." The message rippled through the galaxy, its echo reaching even the most remote worlds. On colonies once enslaved, workers cheered on pirate outposts. Captains toasted to the Terrans in schools and temples. Children spoke the word human as if it meant hope. Reyes watched as the stars drifted past, her hands resting on the railing. "Athena, log our final entry," she said. "Ready, Admiral," the AI replied. "Entry title," Reyes said softly. "The return of humanity." She paused, then continued. "Today marks the day we stopped being survivors. We have no home planet to defend, but we have the entire galaxy to heal. We will not be remembered for what we destroyed, but for what we rebuilt. Athena saved the entry." Its light flickering like a heartbeat, and for a moment, it seemed as if the ship itself was listening. Outside, the fleet spread out across the stars, ships heading toward different worlds, some to help rebuild, some to protect, some to watch, each one carrying the same symbol, a silver planet surrounded by a circle of light, the new emblem of Terra restored on Drath Prime. Admiral Vorkin stood on his balcony and watched the Terran fleet fade beyond the atmosphere, his voice hoarse. "They spared us so that we would never forget," and he knew they wouldn't. In the decades that followed, songs were written about the day of 60 seconds. Statues were built to the unknown soldiers of Terra, and whole empires rewrote their laws to mirror Terran codes of mercy and strength. But in the heart of every human ship, the past remained alive. The memory of Earth, of soul, of home, kept burning like a star that refused to die. As the TSS Vanguard entered the uncharted systems beyond the Council's reach, Reyes stood on the bridge and spoke quietly, not to her crew but to the void itself. "Do you see us now?" she whispered. "Do you see what you tried to erase?" The stars did not answer, but they seemed to shine brighter as if in respect. Athena spoke softly. "Admiral, course set for Sector 0, the remains of Sol." Reyes closed her eyes for a moment, then nodded. "Take us home." The fleet moved forward, engines igniting like blue sunrise as they crossed the void where their world once was. Every ship dimmed its lights for a single minute of silence. No words, no commands, no orders, just the sound of the universe remembering. And then, as they passed the ghost of Sol, Admiral Reyes opened a final transmission to the entire galaxy. "To those who feared us, to those who forgot us, and to those who still hope," she said, her voice echoing like thunder through the stars.
"Humanity has returned not as ashes, but as fire not to burn,
but to light the way." And then the signal ended, leaving behind a silence that felt holy. From that day on, the galaxy spoke of the Terrans with a different tone, no longer as ghosts of a forgotten war, but as the keepers of balance. And when young pilots asked their elders about the humans, the answer was always the same. They came from ashes, and they taught the stars what light really means.